I'm taller.
You too, Danny. Ms. Butler, would you like to join us, Butler? Come on.
The rose between the thorns, is that what you're saying?
Well, I wasn't gonna say that.
After we left the last board meeting, I took everybody's questions into consideration, and actually, as soon as we left the board meeting, I was approached by a parent who put me into contact with another company out of state that does these type of buildings with installation included. And I hope everybody has a budget list that I prepared. I apologize for not getting it to you sooner. The company that I came to about the installation of the building actually sent me all the final numbers yesterday. Actually, it's good that we had those questions because we're actually getting more for what we're paying for now. Originally, this facility was going to be 40 feet wide by 80 feet long. However, the company that I found, the parent informed me of, they can only go 30 feet wide. However, they decided with what we have in mind, they extended the building from 30 feet wide now to 99 feet long and included a shed. And at that particular time, we were still under the original price of just materials with the other company. And once we included in the trim and the color scheme that would match the school as close to as possible, the final number you see there is the building fund at $40,070. Now that is a final number. It will not change. I've talked to the maintenance director. He had spoken to the fire marshal. At this time, there was no concerns about sprinkler systems in this facility. The only concerns that he had was there needs to be a man exit door which we had already planned for, at each wall on the facility. And actually, this company also increased the door sizes for the facility, and this includes garage doors. However, they don't install garage doors, so we will be doing that ourselves. You see at the top where it says foundation. I'm only going over the numbers that are on here because all of the other numbers are either donated by someone or we have plans to go out for those donations and their cost. I've went thoroughly over the foundation with Ms. Butler's husband, who works for the state, and he's getting ready to move to the Army Corps of Engineers building. And he came up with this number, not I. He ran the specifications for concrete, rebar, and did the complete engineering packet on this. We'll actually be testing the concrete through Marshall University and their engineering program. This is the total number for a completed finished product with the foundation. I've spoken to the electrical teacher, and he gave me a material list of what it would take to put electricity at least inside the building to where then we could run lighting, receptacles, and so forth and so on. The $2,000 there was a round number that he had given me, simply because depending on the location of the building, obviously that may increase depending on how far or close it would be to the school. The plumbing I went over with the maintenance director. He informed me that the water would have to be supplied through the piping system that was installed at the softball and baseball fields. That is the easiest accessible place to run water line up there. Obviously, that would call for us to also call Miss Utilities call, but I've installed water line before. Those are things that I don't foresee to be a problem. We talked about sewer at that time. He told me that the softball field had what was called a pump station, which I'm not familiar with, that actually pumps that up to the level of the school, then it drains out through the city sewer. At this time, this facility, we're not planning for any type of restroom facilities or anything like that. And the water would strictly be for the biodiesel and to wash off any equipment after it's being used there on the school grounds, so we don't track in and out any excess mud. for those things. The biodiesel, in my experience, you do use water to clean it. And basically, you can just drain that out into a regular gutter drain. It's completely 100% biodegradable through EPA standards, so there's no harm or foul with the dunnage water that would be used after that. We came in under budget from what we had originally planned, and we have some excess with the funds that we were informed of, and those are, I would say, for extra costs. Obviously, when we get this facility, it'll need gutters and drains and downspouts that can be used for that, and any additional possible costs that we would need for the electrical or plumbing. The electrical class is going to be the ones that installs the electrical inside of this facility, and we've extended out again for the construction class to help us with the foundation, not the actual building of this, because that would obviously be done by the company, but the concrete work, the dirt work, and even working with the engineers to test the concrete and do a compaction test on the soil after we dig out the footer for the area before we place the concrete down.
And I guess there had been some question about where you want the facility to be put at. And I guess there had been some discussion about maybe over the hill. Well, I had 3 areas of concern for me. One was if that pond would ever breach, heaven forbid that would ever happen, and the facility was in that area, I don't know, it's about 100-foot by 70-foot pond, don't know how deep it is, but you'd also have several thousand gallons worth of water that would probably run right through that building. So to me, that'd be the insurance issue. I don't know if the State Board of Risk would allow you to do that because of that. The second piece, as we talked about, was the fact that we were trying to maybe put electricity and water and who knows what that building will be in 30, 40, 50 years from now, but at least get some utilities in that area. The cost to get that in there, but even more so would be safety and security. If that building was over the hill, I'm not so sure that we would do a very good job, or could do a very good job of securing that area. Plus, if you had kids over the hill, I'm not so sure we could do a very good job of supervising students over the hill. So that was the main reason I think we were looking for bringing the facility up on the same level as the school.
Any board members have any questions or clarifications?
I was just curious, Jonathan, about did you say you get sheds?
Well, it would be one shed on one side.
One side?
The entire length of the building,
99?
99 feet, and actually, the engineer, when he put in the email he sent me, he put it at 24 feet wide. I believe that was a mistype, because I had asked for a 12-foot wide off of the building, 14 feet tall, and the entire length of the building. So when it comes to square footage, we're actually getting more square footage than the original. It's just some of that isn't covered.
That's included in that cost?
That is included in that cost.
Well, Mr. Snyder, the only concern I had about building a building up on the level of the school was the future expansion of the trades up where we need that space for those.
I'm thinking if we move it, I don't know if you're looking down at the pond from the building, you have that trash area there. If you move 10 or so feet to your right, that whole area would be feasible, I guess, for even the 99 feet I think you're talking about, because it would take you probably to that road that actually goes down to the field. Yeah.
What about, one day we went out and talked with James Smith, and he was talking about this sewage and the pump, as to how would that work? Would you have to?
My understanding is because that pump was in the kitchen for a couple of years. I guess they just now put it in. It's a 4-inch line, and it actually has a grinder in it. All you would do is, I'm assuming gravity would feed it from the building down to the grinder. The grinder would then send it to the sewer system, which is actually when you cross the bridge and start around that curve, you'll see that big manhole. That's where it's sending it at.
Right. I think initially there was some concern that, excuse me, that if it were in the front of the building, it would be inaccessible almost.
Right.
But what you're saying, regardless of which location, you're still going to use the same
Yes.
sewage system. Is
That's
that
what
right?
Mr. Smith told us.
Yeah, Dana had told me on the phone that the sewer to where the accessible locations for the sewer is to the right of the greenhouses or to the left by the kitchen. The sewer system does not come around the backside of the school.
Right.
You'd have to get the sewage to one of those 2 points to then funnel out to the actual system, which we talked about extensively on the phone, which is a large concern simply because either direction you would go, you'd have to go under the paved road behind the school.
Right.
Yeah, so that's financially, that's a serious concern.
Well, the only option I see of getting sewer is going to the pump station, like Dan said, because
Mhm.
if you go anyplace else, you're gonna have to put in a station if you own.
Yes, sir.
So, and you want to go through Blacktop to get hit.
No.
But it's a long run.
So is that what we're saying now? We really wouldn't have to disturb any blacktop
No,
to do that?
not at all.
Okay, gravity feeds straight to that.
Okay.
And actually, to even install a water line, you wouldn't have to disturb any blacktop. In just third-party conversations, I've heard there's plans to eventually pave down towards the ball fields. And obviously, if this is approved before then, we would never have to disturb anything of that nature.
And we do have a grant to blacktop that in the softball parking area. So that's happening soon.
Well, you know, you're not talking about putting sewer in now.
Yeah.
But if you do go blacktop, what you need to do is put a conduit under those when you blacktop, and then you'll be ready for the sewer when you get there.
I agree. I'll actually include that when I start talking to people that have, where I work for a pipeline company, they have those type of pipes, and see if they'll
Yeah.
donate one of those just so we have it.
So, you know, as we had talked about making, even if we didn't complete everything at this time, at least what had to be within, in case the concrete and all was, you know, stubbed in there, and then
Mhm.
it can be built on and added to later. So is that kind of where we are now? Is it where you
Yeah.
think you're going to be able to actually complete that aspect of it?
I had originally given you a completion date of next November, but with this company actually building the building included in this price, if weather permitting, I think late spring or early summer, the building could actually be built and finished.
So I mean, you even completed the,
Yeah.
I mean, that part of it too?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, like I had mentioned before, as soon as, you know, we're given the go-ahead, we're going to start reaching out to companies in the area for supplies we might need. So we have that all in line and ready to go. And this company had told me when I spoke to them, 3 to 4 weeks and they'll have that built. From the time that the concrete is ready and we call them and say, come and do it, 3 to 4 weeks is how long, depending on weather. And my intention was to have all gutter drain spouts or drainage systems already in place and buried. That way when they come in and those are installed, they're functional and there's no problem. Have all gravel down to the accessibility in and outside the buildings. So really, once they finish constructing the building, there's nothing else for us to do except the inside electrical, which we'll do with the electrical class throughout the time period.
Now, there is a water line up there where you're talking about, on the other side of the blacktop. I was told,
Okay, I'm not aware of that one.
but now you would, I understand it goes around the building there. Someone has a set of plans that shows that,
Oh, okay.
but
Gas, I
I'm
think
sure
that's
Dave
what-
does.
Hmm?
I'm sure Dave Smith
but
does.
it'd be a lot closer there.
Yes, it would.
You'd probably even drive on the road instead of tearing the road up.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to check on that.
I will absolutely check on that.
I think most of the concerns we had seem to have been addressed. One, with the regulatory agencies, that everybody feels good about, you know, what's going, the plans are being made. That we were planning for the future as far as electrical and plumbing that might be needed, even if not immediately, and I think maybe Jonathan's talk maybe would be accessible early on, that part of it. Of course, then the other's the location. You know, I guess there's pros and cons to both of them, just like anything. So, Mr. Snyder, principal of Lincoln County High School, what's your recommendation?
I like to have it up on top.
Okay. Ms. Butler, what do you think?
Up on top.
You up on top too?
Yeah. From a teaching standpoint, I mean, I want to use that biodiesel as an educational tool and to get my classes out there, get them ready. I mean, it's there. They're close to the school, supervision wise. Security wise, that's just the ideal location and right there on top.
Anything else?
Well, I don't know, that Mr. Snyder's satisfied with it.
I want to throw one thing in there, and I actually thought about it when we were making calls about biodiesel. If the ultimate goal is to actually maybe use some of this in the school buses, I think you should take into consideration the accessibility for a school bus to get close enough to the facility where it's not impeding their driving skills or performance to get to.
And we don't want to wipe the building.
I don't think pulling a bus out of the pond would probably be the best, the best thing.
As long as you keep that combine settled down. Okay.
Only one other thing, if I might, you may have already thought of it, but we need to get as much conduit on the concrete as we can. Cameras, you probably need to put a conduit on there for cameras in the future.
I've actually, some of you know my mother, and her brother actually lives in Texas. He owns a security company. And he actually suggested temporarily until we get the school's camera system in place to reach out for some financial support. He has a camera system that he can put in place using just the phone line. And it would actually send live feeds to someone's iPhone or BlackBerry or smartphone if anybody was trying to access that facility or it's motion detected. So that was something that I kind of had in the back of my mind until, I know it takes a lot maybe to get those pipings into the school and all that was a temporary fix to the security problem.
What my concern was, we don't want water strung overhead.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And there's a wireless security system that you can purchase also.
Ms. Lucas, you have anything?
I do not. I have a lot of notes.
Okay, everything sounds, from what I'm hearing, I think all of our concerns have been addressed. We've got it on the record, Mr. Snyder and Ms. Butler run it on top, so.
Yeah, we're playing on them.
We'll just ask for that tape from the Lincoln Journal, that's all I know.
Don't
Go
look
to
at the
you-
tape, Sean.
Let's go to YouTube. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
I think we-
Hey, Steve,
Yes, Carol? We
I
just
have a
said,
question for Jonathan.
John,
Did I understand correctly, there's not going to be any restrooms in the building at all?
I couldn't hear what.
she must have, are there no
That's what he
restrooms in
said
place?
at this time.
At this time, no ma'am.
How far of a walk to the building, to the school, to be able to use those restrooms?
Across the blacktop. Just across the blacktop.
Less than 70 feet into the electrical shop bay, where there is a facility inside that bay.
Okay, that's all.
That is a good concern for us if you're using the building on a Saturday and the school's locked up. But if you do a restroom, you want to heat it so it don't freeze in the winter.
Well, that's why we had thought at one time, even if you planned and put the necessary plumbing in the
Mhm.
concrete, even if you didn't do it, if it was there, or would be there, and then later on say, hey, let's finish that restroom. You know?
After we spoke earlier and Mr. Curry brought up his suggestions, I'd put in this plan to put large conduit in on every wall of the building. That way, depending on where we would need to go or where it would need to come from, it would be there and be accessible at any location.
You could also be able to, if you needed restrooms later on, you could put them in a different, hook it onto the building.
Yes, sir.
Exit outside the building.
You think, Carol, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks much. Okay, then, if all the board's in agreement, we'll put that on our next agenda for action. If everybody's agreeable with that, we'll do it on our December the 4th agenda. Okay, next item of business is David Roberts, Energy Express.